Hey everybody, welcome to the Engage Culture podcast for another word and another time we're going to spend together growing, analyzing events happening all around us and seeing what we can learn as kingdom people from what's happening around us, because I believe that in everything happening around us there's always a level of wisdom. There's something we can learn as children of God from the good and the bad happening around us today, and that is the purpose of this podcast, to look at what's happening around us, whether it's in the world of business, world of entertainment, and we always like to give it a flavor of what's happening, particularly right here in South Africa. And recently we've had a very sad event happen. A brilliant lady, a brilliant woman from our nation, Dr Sindi fell sick with coronavirus, COVID-19, since February, and she's been in hospital fighting for her life on a ventilator. She's at the stage now where she's unable to breathe by herself and she has to use a ventilator. And since February till now, she's been fighting for her life. And the news came out last week when her husband appealed to all of us in South Africa to assist where we can in terms of donating money to help them meet the bills that are now mounting up, given the long protected period that they are spending on this ventilator. And what happened for them to be in that situation is they were in between medical aids, and this just struck as they were in a process of transitioning from one medical aid program. So what they had to do is they had to use their savings, and they literally have come to the end of their resources, and they've been appealing to South Africa for help. And one thing I really want to commend the people of South Africa is there has been a tremendous outpouring of love, support. People have been giving, corporates have been giving, and they've managed to raise 1.5 million. They need 2 million rand, and they've managed to raise 1.5 million rand. And if you still want to give and you still want to donate to them, we're going to put the details on this so that you can also participate and be a blessing. And we want to pray for her and the family and just believe God for a miracle, that she is definitely going to come out of this and be reunited with the family. So there's a couple of things I want us to talk about which we can learn from this story, which can position us as people in the kingdom of God for success when we go through trials that are similar to what she's going through. First lesson we can learn from this is that private medical care in South Africa is expensive. Private medical care in South Africa is very expensive. The kind of bills they were getting, they were being charged 150,000 rand per week every time she was on this ventilator machine. So private medical assistance in South Africa is expensive. Number two, in light of private medical care in South Africa being expensive, one of the things I'm praying and believing for is we need to review some of these things, because that price tag of 150,000 rand a week to be on a ventilator in South Africa in a private healthcare facility, it's very expensive, and I would like that to be reviewed and benchmarked globally. Are we being, because sometimes in South Africa we could see even with the Data Must Fall campaign that when it came to data, South African data is very expensive compared to internationally. So I would really like to find out in terms of when we look at other nations, how much do they charge in terms of being on a ventilator per week? Is it also that expensive? Because that is extremely expensive, and I would really like that to be benchmarked and reviewed so that we can see as consumers in South Africa, are we getting the best bang for our buck, or are we being overcharged and being exploited? Number three, this one is very important. Believers, I want to encourage you from the bottom of my heart. Make sure you get medical aid. Make sure you get medical aid. I am a firm believer in the healing power of God. I am a firm believer in the healing power of God. There's some people who don't believe that God heals today. I am a firm believer of that. At the same time, I'm also a firm believer of the wisdom of God, which was used to create the medical breakthroughs that we enjoy today. So God is either going to heal you through a miracle, or he's going to heal you through wisdom and knowledge. And unfortunately, in South Africa, to access that wisdom and knowledge that is in the medical fraternity, it's going to cost money. So I want to encourage you from the bottom of my heart as a believer in this season, prioritize getting your medical aid, in order. And as well, it's important that as churches, let's not demonize the medical field. Let's not demonize doctors. Let's not tell people they don't have faith when they go for medical assistance. Even psychologically, when people go for therapy and people get psychologists and psychiatric care, whatever it is, in terms of mental health as well. We mustn't demonize it and say, oh, you can't cast out the devil that's taking your peace and taking away your joy. We've got to break that mentality and understand that there is value. God has given wisdom. God is going to heal you either by a miracle or through wisdom and knowledge. And sometimes it's going to take wisdom and knowledge, and we need to get our medical aid in order. Number 4, this is also very important in terms of medical aid. You got to find out how much it is that they cover. How much do they cover? You got to make sure that even when you're selecting your medical aid, you find a facility and a system which can cover you very well. Depending on your income, it is so important that you discover what is the threshold and at what point do they say, no, we can't cover this, and we have to pull the plug on you. So we have to be able to understand how much they come. Then now, so medical aid is more defensive. But number 5, now that we're going on offense, one of the things we have to do is we got to have a strategy of how to have more income, how to develop more income. This is very important, my brothers and sisters, that every one of us in our own individual families, in our own individual lives, that we begin to prioritize increasing our income. We've got to pray through it. We've got to work through it. We've got to think through it. We've got to strategize through it. And we've got to make it happen. It is so important. Number 6, we've got to improve on terms of our personal finance. We've got to up our game in terms of personal finance. In particular, one of the things I want to encourage you is make sure there's a good gap between your income and your income and your bills. That there's got to be a reasonable gap between your income and your lifestyle. And one of the traps we fall for, particularly in South Africa, is that when our income increases, we tend to make our living expenses increase at the same level. And it's very important that as God increases you, don't rush to get the bigger house. Don't rush to get the bigger car. Don't rush to spend it all. Always make sure there's a reasonable gap between your income and your expenditure so that you've got enough money for saving and investing. And sometimes one of the things for us, we get thrown so many credit opportunities. If they give you the opportunity, for example, to buy a car worth 1 million rand, you don't necessarily have to access the credit for the 1 million. Why don't you get the 500,000 car or the 600,000 car, and you've still got that gap. When they offer you 5 million rand to get a 5 million rand home, you don't necessarily have to get the 5 million rand home. Why don't you get the 3 million rand home? And everything doesn't have to be so close. Your expenses don't always have to be so close to your income. You don't want to be that person who is paid today, broke today. So I would encourage you to always make sure there's a healthy gap between the two. Number 7, and this one is also very important. It's a very, every personal finance guru will tell you this one. It's very important to build an emergency fund. Always have money you're putting away that is just in place for emergencies. Always make sure that you've got money that's just tucked away for if an emergency happens, I'm not going to be stranded. I pray that God blesses you with an emergency fund. That's something you need to write down as one of your goals in this season, to have an emergency fund. And then number 8, and this one I think is a testimony of the greatness of Dr. Sindi, which is be kind and be good to the people around you. The outpouring of love and generosity that she has received is just a testimony of the kind of person she was in terms of how she's been kind and good to people around her. You never know when you can find yourself in a situation where you need the kindness and goodness of people. And no one's going to help you if you're someone who's mean, someone who's arrogant, someone who is untouchable, unreachable. And we mustn't lose the lost art of kindness and goodness to people. And I think this is a beautiful testimony of Dr. Sindi, that she's had such an outpouring of love and support. It's a testimony that she's been, wherever she is, she's just someone who's just always been kind, someone who's always just been good to people. And from all corners of this country, she's received love and support. So I would encourage you, wherever you are today, be kind, greet people, love people, show people you care, be kind and loving. It always pays off in the end. And then number 9, one of the things I'm thinking about in this thing is no family should be in this situation, which no family and no individual should be in this situation which Dr. Sindi finds herself in, where your life is dependent on how much money you have or how much money you can raise. I don't think as a society we need to look at ourselves. How many people in South Africa have died because they didn't have money they just didn't have money. The medical equipment was there, the expertise was there, the medication was there, but the money wasn't there to pay the bill. And I don't think any family should be in that. Any human being or any family should be in a situation where I can't afford it, so I'm going to die. I'm going to lose my life because I just don't have the money to pay for this. And it brings up different things like there's got to be a plan for improving government healthcare and making it so good and so accessible for everybody, so that accessible and free healthcare has to be greater than private healthcare. No family should be in this situation where they have to ask people for money. No family should be in a situation where they lose a loved one because they just couldn't afford to pay for it. And it just really hurts my heart in terms of how many stories are out there which we'll never hear about because the people are not celebrities, are not famous, but they just couldn't afford a little bit of money just to pay for something. And it just really hurts my heart. And then which leads me to the final point, which is more than ever this case and just the various challenges we have in South Africa and in Africa in general. It's really pushing me again to really focus on our mandate as a church, which is to build productive people. And it is so critical that we take productivity and prosperity extremely seriously. We have to do well. Because in Ecclesiastes 7 verse 12 it says, money is a defense. It's not a game. We've got to do well financially so that when these circumstances happen around us, we are not powerless. If this happens to our families, we're not in a situation where we are scrambling around for money, but we're able to provide for our families, to provide for ourselves. And it all comes down to us being productive and being fruitful. So above all things tonight, people, I just want to pray that in whatever your quest is, with your gift, with your dreams, whatever it is that you're pursuing, I pray that it is blessed. I pray that it succeeds. I pray that you become extremely fruitful, extremely wealthy, and extremely prosperous, not just for the superficial Instagram photos, but for the ability to provide for yourself and to provide for your family, and in times of trouble, to be able to have the resources on hand to be able to deal with whatever the enemy throws to you. May you focus, get focused, work hard, take action, succeed. God is with you. Money is a defense. I'm telling you, money is a defense. You know, there's some people who go to jail because they didn't have a good lawyer. They could have been innocent. But just because they couldn't afford the best lawyers, they end up in jail. There's some people who die of simple sicknesses because they just didn't have the money to take care of the situation. So I just pray that from the bottom of my heart, may God bless you. May God bless the work of your hands. For those in corporate, may God bless you, keep elevating you. For those studying, please study, succeed. For those who are on one level of income, I pray that God gives you strategies to keep rising. If it's going back to school, don't be ashamed. Go back, educate yourself. When the money is hitting the account, there'll be nothing to be shy about. For those who want to get into business, you've been discouraged here and there, please don't be discouraged. Get up, go for it, succeed. For those in business having hard times, don't give up on that business. It's bigger than you think. Keep pressing, keep pursuing. I pray that God just blesses you with favor, supernatural doors, supernatural access, supernatural increase. May God bless you.